Hey you! Yes, you, the one who's watching this video or listening to the audio of this. Do you ever contemplate why we do things or why we do something? Is it because it's a part of our routine of our day-to-day life? Is it because you know you need to do it because if you don't, it would bite you in the butt down the road and get you in trouble? Or could it be because it's something you really love and enjoy? There are many reasons why we do things, from everyday stuff to just doing our own hobbies. And then at times we have things that remind us why we enjoy or why we love doing things in our day-to-day lives. There have been many times in my life where I'm reminded why I love playing video games. And after playing Final Fantasy X, I was once again reminded about why I love games in general. If you can't tell for some reason, we will be talking about Final Fantasy X today, and it will go into spoiler side of things, so if you haven't played this game, please do yourself a favor and play this gosh dang amazing game, because it's really just that good. Now, whenever the topic of people's favorite Final Fantasy game comes up, I usually just see the typical 7, 9, sometimes 14, and some of the more older ones depending on who you ask. And sometimes I do see 10 floating around in there as well. I knew when people talked about 10, there was this huge passion behind what they were saying, and the way they even talked about the game made me excited to one day give it a chance and try out and hopefully see why people praise this game to the sun and moon. Because I really wanted to see why people really love this game. Was it the story, the characters, the setting, or was it something completely different? And well, spoiler alert for at least me it was all these things and more. I went into Final Fantasy X thinking I would like it. I didn't know leaving it that I would be in complete love with it. And I guess the best place for me to start talking about why I love this game so much is let's take it from where it all really starts off, with the story. For all Final Fantasy games that I've played to this point, more times than not, their stories are what keep me playing them, because they do so much outstanding jobs of keeping you engaged to find out what happens next to hit topics out of the park with themes and undertones. Starting out with Tidus on Zanarkand, I was perplexed because I didn't really care for his attitude at the beginning, more so on this later. But the fact that the whole opening section of this game I just thought was okay. How does this all tie together? From Sin attacking us, to Auron handing Tidus a sword, saying it's a gift from Jet. It set up this big and what the hell is going on to, well, you know how it ends if you're played the game. And I was just really weirded out, or more so, more confused about where was this road going to take us? Of course, we start getting answers to some of these questions we get as we continue on with the story. From what actually happened to Zanarkand on that painful and fateful day to Sin itself, what and who it is, and what's its purpose in all of this. My whole thing was, I wasn't super excited on how things would turn out. As the story went on, you knew we got little details or hints that, hey, something isn't right with like any of this, especially with Tidus. But more so in this world in general. The religion aspect is odd because people weren't really questioning it. Why can't we really beat Sin? There is and was a bigger hand at play here, and all the red flags are going off. But it's hard to put a solid finger on it till, well, Seymour, the SOB, tells us everything and really sets things in motion for us. Thanks, Seymour. I wish I never got to meet you. Again, another topic that's probably going to come up later. It gives us these crumbs off a cookie that allowed us to put these small little details together that they added during the game that didn't sound right at first, or there was a very odd saying of how they phrased the sentence, to it all being kind of foreshadowed to what was to come, or gave us the answer that was right in front of us, especially towards the end. And when that end hits, man, it really does hit. Tidus saying goodbye to everyone, especially to Yuna, the person he fell in love with, and even to this found family we were able to make through this insane but such magical journey, was nothing short of, man, I wish it really didn't end here. But it needs to. And that's why I think hurt the most. As much as I love this story so much, I hated seeing the credits roll. Because yes, I can come back anytime to play this game, and I get to talk about why this game is just so good, but I am truly sad that it was all over, because it's something I probably won't forget anytime soon, and it's something I don't want to forget. And if somehow I do, I don't want to go through this again, because it was so good, but it hurts so much come the credit rolls. Also, the setting is so well done and beautiful. It's hard to imagine any other place besides Spira, being the hub world for everything in Final Fantasy X. It does such an outstanding job of just making things work here. Every place we visit is wonderful and filled with details. The people in these locations feel and sound like they are from this said area. It captures what it's like to really build a world within the story so well that it fits perfectly like a glove. Another thing that the story does well is in its terms of doing themes. And one of the biggest, and one I gave my full appreciation for, is the topic of religion. Again, in case you don't know, religion isn't something I'm well versed in. However, I think the way Final Fantasy X handled this topic of religion is one that I think holds a lot of value to this day, especially at the time when it originally came out. It talks about some of the bad parts of Spear's religion that people choose not to talk about or turn a blind eye to for one reason or another. But at the same time, it handled it with care and showed why people do follow religion for one reason or another. It even went as far as to show how you can help improve yourself while also accepting people who choose not to go down the path of a certain religion or a certain path in life for one reason or another. And again, it was a topic that was handled with care that I don't think anyone can really be mad about it if you played through Final Fantasy X. There's also the obvious topic of life and death, which was blatantly in our face the whole time, but we didn't know till we confirmed that, yeah, Tidus is dead. This is more of a fun way they went about it and the best way I can think. Even though our main crew never met Tidus while he was alive, excluding Auron, for certain parts we saw the impact he had on everyone, which goes to show how important people are alive as well as when they pass on. Their memories, the good and the bad, and the ugly, all that we shared with them, the adventures that we went on, and oh so many more, that we should really consider the people we choose to keep in our lives. Because even though, when they move on, yes, it will hurt like hell, but what they leave behind will be memories, lessons, love, that we will hold on forever. But then there's also the hope of us passing down these things to the next generation, to show that yeah, they may be gone, but their memories and what they stood for can and should live on forever. This also showcases a lot during the sendings. Life is something people take for granted a lot, and sometimes when someone passes, it wakes people up. But for people that have gone through these things, they know how valuable life can be. It's a wonderful and hard thing to do, even with all of its hardships that come with it. But in death, there's also beauty in it as well. And the sending ritual is the cherry on top that really makes it all come together. There's also the topic of redemption and the pressure of following in the footsteps of family or your predecessor. Now this one I'm not going to talk too much about because I do want to make something or a project for both Tidus and Yuna. And it's kind of centered around this specific point, but my small glimpse into what that project may become, even though it's very early in the drafting board, is I love that these focal points that they use through Tidus and Yuna, it showed the hardships of being related to someone who is well known for XYZ reason, and the pressure that it comes with, but also the pressure that comes with living up to those expectations that people have put forth on you, even though you're a completely different person than who they were. And then also the topic of you may not want to follow on the same path that they followed, and kind of do your own thing in life. Or the issue that people see you as your predecessor and not the person who you actually are. They only see the person that came before you. I love these certain themes from Final Fantasy X, and there was a lot more than just these, and a lot more going alongside the story as well. That just in general, it just made the adventure of Final Fantasy X just that more fun and beautiful, and made me love it even more. Because there's so many great moments here and there throughout this wonderful journey. Also going into this, I knew some of the scenes like Tidus and Yuna's laugh, but never had the context behind that said scene. Just people would use it from time to time in a somewhat funny manner, like I guess a meme of sorts, to kind of make fun of the scene, I guess, in a sense, or to get some certain point across. But once I got to that scene, I was shocked about how great it was. Is it a bit odd of how the laugh is portrayed? Yes. I think we can all agree to that point. But that's what I think makes that scene so freaking good. It was one of the first points in the game where I felt like, yeah, this is going to be something special. And there are so many of these moments throughout this worthwhile game that it truly is a special time. Such as Yuna making the whistle sound at the end, Yuna and Tidus' kiss scene, and so many more the build up, the extension of these moments made me really appreciate everything that this game had to offer. I love me some great characters, as if you couldn't tell. And this main cast and some of the side characters are filled with characters that really make this journey that much more better. If I'm being honest, I wasn't sure with Tidus being our main person at the start, to be honest. For me, he didn't have that great of first impression for me at least, but that sort of quickly faded away once we got to Besaid. At this point, I felt like I was wrong about Tidus, and just maybe he will grow on me, and I'll come to like him a lot. And if you can't tell, this happened tenfold. Going back to the laughing scene with Tidus and Yuna is where I think it first started for me that Tidus is meant to be our main character, sort of alongside Yuna, because that one scene felt like Tidus encouraging Yuna to step outside her shell and try to live her life no matter who's there listening or watching, but also felt like he helped Yuna in the sense for himself as well. He needed someone to help him get outside his shell when he really needed it, and probably wish someone did the same thing that he was doing with Yuna. But since he didn't have that person or have a conversation like that, why couldn't he be that person for Yuna? This is sort of a more of a recurring thing with Tidus a lot on this journey. He speaks his mind even during times you probably shouldn't, but it's in good faith. He pushes our cast to really think for themselves and make sure if they hear what they are saying and hear what others are saying as well. If it's wrong or just plain as day doesn't make sense, then say something about it. Tidus speaking out for our cast while showcasing his own problems was something I grew to love about him a ton. I'm going to talk more about Tidus sometime down the road, so I won't go into too much depth with him as I will with Yuna as well. But again, what I will say, Tidus, I was also wrong about you and about my first impression, and I'm so glad I was, because you truly are a hero in your own story and in ours as well. Yuna was someone else that I think was hurt more so from the crumbling under the pressure of following in her father's footsteps. And again, like I just said with Tidus, I won't talk too much about Yuna because again, I'm working on a project for both Tidus and Yuna. However, her overall arc of growth is wonderful. She went from someone who was more reserved and really wouldn't say what's on her mind to being one of the more leading causes to fight the rulers of this world head on. There are so many scenes for her that happen over the course of the game that I think it really shows who she is, but also where she is heading. And the main one for me is the laughing scene between her and Tidus. Now again, we've been already over this scene, but from Yuna's perspective, I think this was her first case of breaking out and to be her own person. It kind of felt like this is the first time we are seeing Yuna open herself up to the world and open just herself to be free. Again, it felt like who cares who's listening, who cares who's watching. Let's live in the here and now and forget some of our worries, just for the short time that we have here right now. And who better way or better person to open up this way of thinking than Tidus? The next character I want to talk about is Wakka. I think Wakka development for this game was interesting and something I didn't think was going to actually happen. The reason I'm saying this is because Wakka off the bat seemed like a bro's bro, which I like to kind of come off as someone you lean on in times of need, and he's the first one to stand up for us when we need him to. And by all accounts, Wakka is this type of character. He looks out for us a lot on this journey, but making sure Tidus was okay after waking up on Besaid, making sure Yuna's okay, and is in the right headspace throughout this journey as well. He also makes sure Lulu's alright and protected. You kind of get the point. He is, in the sense, a guardian, but he's also our guardian of this group. Wakka, by all accounts, is a good dude, but his fatal flaw comes from his own brother's death. When Wakka first went over this detail, you could feel that he's still affected by this in a very deep level. I mean, look, he handed over the sword to Tidus after such a short window in time with him, just because Tidus kind of looked like him. And we know that the reason he did this isn't put right out there for us, but we can kind of put two and two together. That the reason he did this is in the hopes that maybe this time things won't play out the same way they do again. But little did he know that they did or would play out the same way, but probably not the way he intended it to do so. Wakka's brother Chapu is a big scar left on Wakka, and rightfully so. Anyone who has decent siblings would probably feel the similar way that Wakka was feeling when his brother passed, if they were in Wakka's shoes, and I know I would. However, how Wakka takes out this frustration was the big arcing problem. He believed all Al Bhed were horrible people just because of what happened with Chapu. Now, to be very blunt, this is discrimination on all accounts, and I think the way they handled Wakka's case, hands down, is a good way of handling this type of trope, or more so, this certain discussion point. We saw time and time again interactions whenever Al Bhed was mentioned towards or in reference to anything, and we saw Wakka's response, or his reaction to anything of assortment related to Al Bhed. Him basing off this discrimination led to him jumping to a lot of conclusions or points that weren't needed a lot during the story. But as time moved forward, we saw that this idea of his, or this way of thinking that he had, was starting to crumble around him. He started being more open. He started talking about why certain things don't make sense when it came to Al Bhed stuff. Then come towards the end of it all, we saw that he may not fully agree with everything and anything Al Bhed related, but he became more open-minded. He wasn't judging based on the name alone anymore. He was willing to hear them out and listen to what they were saying, and slowly and surely realized he has been wrong a good chunk of the time. And it became a real eye-opener for him. And this is one of my more favorite aspects about this game, that it takes topics that are usually hard to talk about because it's kind of hard to get certain points across without stepping on toes, but also it takes real life issues that people go through day to day, and some people don't realize these things actually happen unless it's presented clear as day and right in front of you. And you know, in Wakka's case, he was doing this, and it took him a majority of the story to realize, hey, I was in the wrong and I'm sorry. And then also handled this topic of discrimination, how it starts off, that it can be a slippery slope that you can head down. How one thing happening can lead you to blaming a whole group instead of looking at a certain instance or situation and pinpoint or just talk about why that certain instance hurt you and not put the blame on a whole group of people. And Wakka overcoming his own faults, his own prejudiced ways of thinking was great. It was beautiful and it was handled so well. Next, let's talk about Auron, the guy who aura farms a lot here. Jokes aside, the Auron story as it develops late is both a tale of tragedy and hope. I love that Auron was trying his hardest to set things right for us and try to guide us on a path that both led us to our goal, but also made sure this is the path we want to be on. At least the second half of the story. Then when we learned of Auron being an unsent, and the loss and pain he feels for what happened to both his greatest friends in Jet and Baraska, then there was also the topic of him keeping his promise of making sure both their kids stay safe and out of harm's way as much as possible. I think plain as day tells you all you need to really know about Auron. He's someone everyone wants to have in their life because, you know, he will be there no matter what. Blood, sweat, tears, and the whole thing in between that. Lulu is interesting in the sense that most of what we got through her is kind of through side content and side remarks. We know she is stern and is basically the older sister to Yuna, and making sure she is in the best spot to be in. But when that veil slowly starts to fall, we kind of see who Lulu really is. She's been hurt a lot and is borderline haunted by this particular journey. As we stated earlier, Wakka had a brother, but that brother, Chapu, was in a relationship with Lulu. But we all know Chapu passed and left Lulu to grieve. Then after that, we learned that this isn't Lulu's first time being a guardian. She had done it before, but in her eyes, and depending on how you see this, failed. And the way she is sort of starts to make sense at this point, or at least the way she acts around us during certain instances and moments. She lost her love. She feels like she failed being a guardian the first time around. And now we're on a pilgrimage to send Yuna to her own death. She knows she's sending her own little sister to her own death. When we find out these details, I think we kind of can all understand why she has this wall built up around her and the reason she acts the way she does. Then as hope appears, those walls slowly start to fall down around her. She's always been loving and caring, but that big ginormous wall isn't there anymore. Isn't there to stop her from saying how she really feels or letting others get close to her anymore. She becomes just so well-rounded. Komari is another interesting character to me because for a good part of the start, I really did feel like we would never hear him talk, like at all. Then we saw Komari get talked down to by his own people. And when you compare Komari to like his own people by a side-by-side comparison, we kind of saw why they were talking down on him, because based off of his horn. But before we get to that point, when we started to hear Kimahri talk, which was rare at first, it felt like those moments where no matter how big or small a room is, if a certain person is speaking, you stop what you're doing and listen to what they were saying. And it felt like that a lot at the start when Kimahri was talking to us. It was kind of like Lulu, but in a different sense. He was hard to approach and mean mugged us a lot, but deep down he cared a whole lot about Yuna, but also this whole crew. Then going back to the point about Kimahri's horn and learning about his tribe, I felt was cool. I'm a person who likes to learn about other cultures and history, both through fiction and real life, even though at times I get confused a lot. So this was something I enjoyed hearing about. How the Ronso tribe work, and what the goals were, and what they actually did, or do. I do wish we got to know more about Kimahri's goals. Yes, we know about him and Yuna, but Kimahri, what is it that you want to do? Or what you really want to accomplish after all of this? I do know this answer is somewhat answered in the internal calm part of Final Fantasy X, but kind of wish we had some better insight in the base game of Final Fantasy X. Then last but not least, the one and only, the one who gets the job done, Riku. I think for me, Riku may be my least favorite character from this journey. However, that doesn't mean I don't like her. I think it's kind of hard to not kind of put things together, or the way I'm speaking, I love all of these characters. But if I had to rank them, I think Riku kind of just comes in last place for me. She kind of plays more of an important role inside Wakka's own development by showing again that how discrimination isn't something that's right to do, and her leading us to her home really helps set those wheels in motion for Wakka to wake up. Then there was her trying to get Yuna to abandon her pilgrimage, but she knows it isn't right. She just wants to protect Yuna, but knows that Yuna wants to do what Yuna wants to do, and that's to protect everyone, especially the ones that are closest to her. I think for Riku, what she shows us about this world is her strongest point to her as a character. She adds moments that help lighten the mood a bit here and there, but she also showcases how twisted this world is from a different perspective, and I think that's where her value truly lies. The last person I want to add here, because unfortunately he is important to add here, even though I hate his effing guts, it's Seymour. I had a feeling that Seymour wasn't right, besides the plain as day meme of, oh boy, I wonder who's the important character in this scene here, just based off the way he looks. I hate his guts and wish him nothing, and I mean nothing, but the worst. And if you couldn't tell, that makes him a pretty good villain. Everything he does and wants to do fits in with what is happening, even though it took so beeping long to finally be rid of him. He made this journey the ride it was. So I guess thank you, Seymour, in that regards, even though you're a sack of... Now, you may or may not have seen my video about turn-based games. Cough, cough. Shameless plug. But Final Fantasy X is the game that really made that video move in motion for me. Or more so come to light. I had an idea of where I wanted to take that particular project and what I wanted to do for that particular video, but couldn't really nail the head on it, or what I really wanted to say, or kind of the approach I wanted to take it. But when the credits rolled for Final Fantasy X, I felt like I had a good answer as to how I wanted to approach that particular video. You heard how I felt about the story, but something that makes Final Fantasy X such a great game after all these years is the gameplay side of it. The simple concept of turn-based games is something that time and time again goes and shows us, no matter how much time has passed, these games still use some of the best mechanics I believe to date. My gameplay style is pretty lackluster if you ask me. You ever see those memes of FPS games or about people in those games where teams see an enemy and one of their teammates is already pushing them before they even finish their sentence? Yeah, well, I'm that teammate at times that's pushing the team as soon as I see them. So kind of given that context, you can probably put two and two together, and that, well, I usually stay on the offensive side of things, which can be, and at times is, a double-edged sword. And with Final Fantasy X, I really need to tone down my own playstyle a lot. And I'm not really mad about it. There's so many times where I think, man, I got this in the bag, only for me to be met with an insane combo or move that put me near death. Or it did, and make me lose, and I had to restart the battle or go back to my save and restart a whole bunch of battles and dialogue to get back to where I lost at. time and time again. I am looking at you, Seymour Flux Battle. You are the vein of my existence. But even though it was a pain, and even when I wanted to smash my controller probably through my own monitor, I still enjoyed and had a fun time gameplay-wise. Again, I know turn-based games aren't for everyone. Even if you were to watch what I do on stream or even in these videos that I make, you may think that I play with the controller strapped to my forehead at times. And you may think, man, this guy is an idiot. And you're right, but that's the fun in these types of games. Can it be frustrating? Yes, by 1,000 times. But when you sit back and think about the next move, and when you think about what abilities you have in store or what your characters are capable of doing, or where you need to use them, it really opens up the game a lot. Me sitting and thinking out loud about whatever strat I need to come up with, that is fun to me. Trial and error in turn-based games are fun to me, and I like it. And again, I've already kind of gone through this whole mumbo jumbo for an old video, so if you really want kind of a more in-depth take of this, just go watch that. But I still stand here that I love this certain gameplay because it works for me. It helps me kind of think outside the box. What do I need to adjust? What do I need to work on for my particular party? What do I need to level up for them to make them more effective or more valuable to me in certain playstyles? And Final Fantasy X is such a shining example of why turn-based games are just so damn good, and why they are still good. It stands the test of time, I think, really well in all departments, but even more so in the gameplay department because it's fun, challenging, and such a rewarding experience. Outside of storytelling and characters, I think my next favorite thing about games in general is the music. Again, this is another topic that I've gone into in a whole lot more detail, but I think Final Fantasy X, it's hard to really express how good the music is in this game for good reasons. They were able to really nail on the head when it came to placements of the songs, or even when there was no build-up at all for anything, and the music selected for those huge moments were amazing. For example, Braska Final Aeon Battle, oh my god, did that get me so hyped. Rock and metal is kind of my thing, and I get it may not be everyone else's, but I can tell you right now, when that OST started playing, I was, as sad as it was to go into that battle, as heart-wrenching as it came up to be, I could not stop but get hyped that this could be it. And this isn't just the only moment where this happens. I felt like these are moments where music plays, and that battle isn't the only time it happens. There's a plenty of other times where music kicks in during pivotal moments that really set the tone of what's happening. It kind of feels like where these moments where music plays such a huge and important role, and the Jet final battle, boss battle music, whatever we want to call it, is such a great example of it. There are also other OSTs like the Besaid theme that just match the tone and the environment of Besaid itself, that I don't know if this will make sense, that Besaid's theme feels like it fits with Besaid. It's relaxing island, it has such nice rich culture, and it kind of fits in with the people that live there as well. And with it kind of being a more relaxed or laid back theme, whatever you want to call it, it allows you to just sit back a little bit and digest everything we've done to that particular point, and kind of regroup everything and start planning for what's next. There are so many great songs and themes here in this wonderful game that I can talk about them till the cows go home. But I think the best way to sum it all up is like this. Music is rich. It comes in many different shapes and forms, in ways that we can see and hear it. And somehow, some way, Final Fantasy X is able to take all of that what makes music good and make it such a worthwhile time just to listen to it alone. And when you add in the other elements like the story, the characters, the gameplay, it's a master of its own craft and making every aspect of this game something you can't forget. I've waited a long time to play Final Fantasy X, and to be honest, I really don't know why I didn't play it any earlier, or why it took me so long to finally getting around to playing it. It's hard for me to really rank the Final Fantasy games I've played because for some of them it's been a hot minute since I've played them, but I do believe 10 would be sitting near the top if I were to do a thorough ranking of them. There's so many things to love about this game in so many different ways, and it's one of those games where I think if you play it at the right time in your life, it can have a really good and lasting impact on you. I never want to say never because it is one of those words that holds a lot of weight for it, even though it's such a short word, But I think it will be a good while before I really forget about my time with this game. It was such a joy and such a fun time that it will stay with me for a good while. And I'm so glad that I got to play this and really experience this worthwhile journey. And with that, we start heading towards the exit of this video. But before I release you all from your cages, there is something I kind of want to say. I've kind of set myself a new goal, or something that another side project for me to work on in my free time to kind of make things more fun. And I hope I don't mess this up when I do this. But this video should be releasing alongside a supercut of my Final Fantasy X playthrough on a different channel called Ron's. It's kind of an abbreviation of my own Twitch channel name. After a good bit of me coming back into kind of starting to stream up again, I have a whole VOD channel if you are interested in that, but the Ron's channel will be more focused on like supercut of games and maybe other things that I played or did on stream, just kind of like a highlights channel, I guess, for all my streaming stuff. It's mainly going to be a channel of things that don't necessarily fit here on this one, for obvious reasons. Now, this is kind of like my own yapping channel where I talk about topics like this. I go into more details about why I liked certain games, certain characters, certain discussion topics that I want to kind of keep like supercuts away from this, because again, it doesn't fit with the stuff here. But if you're interested in that, I would totally appreciate it if you went over there, maybe subbed, and maybe save that video for later if you want to watch it as well. And again, I don't want this to seem like I'm stopping doing things here. I enjoy this hobby of mine a lot, and I don't want people to think that I'm stopping this stuff here. I don't foresee myself stopping anytime soonish, at least not right now, unless something comes up, and knocking on wood. It's just another project to help me keep me occupied in my free time if I have nothing I can really do within said free time. But I really do hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, maybe think about subscribing to me so you can hear more of my dumb takes. Maybe like the video if you really enjoyed it. Or if you want to come back and comment here and talk about Final Fantasy X, what you liked, what you like about Final Fantasy games, whatever the topic may be about Final Fantasy X, put it below and we can have a discussion about it. Because in all honesty, I would love to keep talking about Final Fantasy X. And I want to try to, hopefully down the road, we will see. But alas, for now, I hope you all have a great and safe rest of your day. And if your day isn't going good, I hope it does get better. I believe in you. Remember to drink your water, get your steps in, check your posture, and always remember you're important. And until the next video, I will catch you all later.